I am 29 years old and was raised only by my mom, who is now 55. My mom got pregnant by accident and tried to make it work with my dad, but it turns out he was a hurtful drunk. Since then, my mom hasn't dated, nor has she really moved past all the trauma. Growing up, everything was well. We would agree about loads of things, and it was all fine. We would argue quite a bit too, but I mean parents, right? When I turned 13, things changed, and the relationship became really strained. Then at 18, I moved countries. Now, I didn't really know this at the time, but I was depressed, definitely between the ages of 18 to 25, but maybe even before that. Other than my low self-esteem, I also had an eating disorder. A lot of it was because of media influence, but my mother's comments definitely contributed to it. Long story short, I know the way I was raised and the way I have been interacted with for years was really not very nice. Not talking about actual abuse, but it's affected me deeply. Some examples. 1. When I was there with my now ex-boyfriend, who is 22 years my senior, we were there for Christmas. My mom has always disliked the fact that I worked in restaurants and didn't have a degree, so at some point when we were in the kitchen, she told me, I was 23 at the time, "You should look into getting a better job or degree. Tom won't stick around with a waitress forever." Now, I know how absurd that comment is. A guy twice my age settling for me, etc., coming from my mother. 2. Last week, my recent boyfriend, Cam, and I broke up. It was a healthy relationship. We were best friends before, and the breakup was more about where our lives are going, so more of a, it's not right now sort of thing, rather than any wrongdoing. I told my mother on the phone, and her response? Guess I'll be meeting another guy then, which just seemed sort of heartless. Who would even say that? Part of the reason for the breakup was that Cam wasn't standing up for me, or anyone for that matter, to which my mom said, "Well, you know how you are. Nobody wants to argue all the time." Again insinuating I'm difficult and just a horrible person. I have asked her to go to therapy with me before, and again last year, but she just refuses. 3. A few years ago, while I was in therapy for my eating disorder, I was visiting my mom and told her that I have it and am working through it. Her response? No, you don't. The stress of moving countries got to you, but your eating is fine. It wasn't, by the way. 4. Last year, I went to visit and helped her clear out her closet. With every piece of clothing, she was saying how she's too skinny to wear this now, or how it's from the when I was fat pile, etc., which was a bit triggering, but fine. Then she started saying how she's only eating an apple and a soup in a day, and feels great, and has lost 22 pounds, etc. So I said, can we please not talk about weight and calories? I'm glad you feel good and are happy. She snapped at me that I'm like censoring what we talk about. Similar conversations have happened when discussing anything else, so it's not just eating related. For example, when I called her to say I am going to look for a fully remote job because I would like one, since I moved on from restaurants a few years ago, her first response was, "No, don't do it. It's a bad idea." She wouldn't even listen to why I might want one. It's all her way or no way, her options or none. Another example. Last summer, I went to visit, and somehow the issue of J.K. Rowling's comments came up, leading to a conversation about homophobia. I thought it was going to be fine, as I know my mom has a couple of gay colleagues and is generally very chill about it. Anyway, her response to me saying that homophobia is a really serious issue, and it's sad it's still an issue today. Oh, it's not that bad. You know who has it bad? Single mothers. To which I said, I'm not saying they don't, and I'm sure there's more the government could do, but that doesn't diminish the issue of homophobia. She wouldn't listen. Anyway, every time I interact with her, it's pretty bad. We speak maybe once a month, sometimes less. I do feel guilty because the only family I have is my mom and my aunt, her older sister, and they also don't get along. To add to this, because I'm the only child in the family, my mom has arranged for me to get my inheritance early, which helped me put down a payment on a tiny flat and really improved my living situation. Now, once a year, she sends me a chunk of money to put toward the mortgage. Now, I know I am really privileged. I have already thanked her numerous times for helping me get the flat and told her that she doesn't need to send me more money, but she continues to because she wants to help, which is, again, very kind of her. But after every single conversation with her, I have a breakdown. After that phone call when I told her about the breakup, I thought I was going to be fine, but the following day, I spent 30 minutes crying, lying on the floor. In the past, I noticed I would be on edge and pick fights over nothing shortly after speaking to her. Also, to add to this already lengthy post, my mom has been single since my dad. She doesn't have many friends, if any, that I know of. She has a steady job and spends most of her time alone, from what I know. So I realize both she and my aunt are getting older, and I sometimes feel like I can't handle speaking to my mother at all because of all the emotional stuff. But also, obviously, she hasn't done anything truly bad that would warrant cutting her off. And she's helping me with the money, which is really nice. But I think if she stopped, I would at least feel a bit less guilty. But also, because she is helping me financially, that means she does care about me, right? Anyway, any sort of thoughts or ideas on this would be really great, as it's been like this for years. And I guess I find it really sad to give up on the idea of having any sort of positive relationship with my mother. Now, for a few comments before the update. Well, actually, this post didn't have any comments. Now for the update. About a month after the last update, out of nowhere, I got a text from my mom about a family dinner for Easter. Honestly, I was surprised she was still trying to get the family together after everything that happened. So, she mentioned it was supposed to be at this restaurant, known for its huge portions and chill vibe. I mean, the place literally has burgers the size of your head. I wasn't really in the mood to celebrate Easter or whatever, but I guess I felt obligated to show up. I arrived early to help set up the table and also ordered a drink because, seriously, I needed something to calm down. The atmosphere was just off, and I could tell this was going to be one of those dinners. My mom rolled in with my sister, Kate, who was just buzzing with excitement about dinner and wouldn't stop talking about school. Like, Kate, I'm happy for you, but can't you see the mood? But everything changed when my brother Jake and his wife Rachel walked in with a baby carrier. Yeah, they had a kid. And guess what? I still don't know what to think about that. My mom's face lit up, and she was all over the baby. I mean, I get it, but at that moment, I was just trying to get through the dinner. So, after the baby stuff, my mom brought up the topic of dating again. Like, really? She asked if I'd met anyone new. I mentioned I was focusing on myself because I was just trying to avoid any conflict. But no, not my mom. She rolled her eyes and said, "You should really start dating again. It's not healthy to be alone." The awkwardness was intense at that point, and I was fighting the urge to leave the table right then and there. I wanted to, crawl under the table and disappear. As the meal went on, I noticed my mom sneaking glances at her phone. At one point, I saw her texting and thought, great, even dinner isn't a break from her obsession with my love life. After dinner, I overheard her talking to Kate about a new guy she met. My mom really is something, huh? I tried to ignore it, but there it was, like a big elephant in the room that wouldn't leave. Then Jake and Rachel left early, which made the table feel even emptier and more awkward. I decided to excuse myself to the restroom, mainly because I needed a moment to breathe. While washing my hands, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I overheard my mom on the phone, whispering about setting up a date for me. It's like she just doesn't get it. So I went back to the table, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. I confronted her about the phone call. She just shrugged it off, saying, "I just want you to be happy. You'll thank me later." No, Mom, I don't think I will. Then she stood up and started saying I was ungrateful for her help and support. I was so done with everything that I just blurted out that I would pay for my own mortgage from now on. The shock on her face was something else. The silence at the table was intense. After a moment, I grabbed my coat and left without saying another word. The next day, I canceled her mortgage payments. I was determined to regain control over my life. It was a mess, but I spent the week researching financial independence and budgeting tips. Thankfully, it didn't take that long to find decent resources. I wanted to be ready for whatever came next. Well, my mom sent a ton of texts demanding to know why I was cutting ties. I responded with a clear message. I needed space and time to figure things out. She freaked out and started saying I was abandoning the family. I couldn't even deal with that. I ended up blocking her on social media to avoid any more drama. At the end of the week, I got a call from Kate. She shared that my mom was really upset and was planning a family meeting to address the fallout. Kate was like, "Please don't cut ties with her." I listened as Kate explained everything, feeling a mix of emotions. I didn't want to hurt Kate, but I also knew I had to stick to my guns. I decided to attend the meeting, even though I wasn't sure what would happen. So, on the day of the meeting, I walked into Jake and Rachel's house. They had the baby with them, and I can't lie, even that was a little weird for me. I walked in with a calm demeanor, ready to face my mom. My mom launched into this big speech about how families should support each other, emphasizing the importance of relationships. I listened, but I was also thinking, you really have no idea what you're asking for. I finally interrupted her, clearly stating my need for boundaries and independence. The room was silent, and I could feel everyone's eyes on me. It was one of those moments. My mom snapped back, insisting I didn't know what was best for me. I stood firm, explaining that I was done being controlled and needed to live life on my own terms. After that, the meeting kind of just ended. It was clear the family was divided, and I wasn't sure what to expect next. Edit. After the meeting, my mom's reaction surprised me. She sent a long text saying I had no idea how much I hurt her and that she was done with me. It was harsh, but honestly, it felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. I also got a call from Jake, who said he understood my need for distance, but was worried about our family dynamics. He asked if I could keep the lines of communication open. I assured him I would, but needed time. Kate called next, asking if I had considered Mom's side. I explained my perspective, and she agreed to give me space for now. Am I the idiot for expecting my boyfriend to put down his phone and pick up our relationship? Recently, I have been having a really hard time connecting with my partner of 6 years. During the time we have been together, I have made a conscious effort to tell him how I feel about him, our relationship, my love language, and so on, and I feel as though every time I do this, I never get anything in return. There have been multiple moments where I have outright said, I feel most loved through words of affirmation and physical touch. I appreciate all other forms of love language, but sometimes I find it hard to recognize the feeling of being loved unless it's spoken to me or physically shown to me. His response is always along the same lines of, I find it hard to speak about those things, or I'm not an affectionate person. He is my best friend, but I find it so hard to be consistently asking him to please try a little bit harder. I'm not asking for a whole speech or anything like that, just the occasional comment here and there. For example, he rarely tells me I'm pretty, or that he's proud of me, or that I have done a good job, and if he's ever touching me in a loving way, 9 times out of 10, it's in bed, and it's only because he wants to have intimacy. I'm honestly getting a bit tired of the woe is me response as he puts it back onto me, like I am asking him for way too much, and I should just know by now that he can't give me that side of him as he doesn't know how to. Basically, I just want to know, am I asking for too much? Should I just take the loss and try to find a different way of feeling loved? Believe me, I have tried, but I'm starting to feel as though I'm making excuses for him and enabling him to continue to brush off my needs. Should I be more stern with how I need him to be, or will that just end with me forcing him to do something he can't? We have spoken about how maybe something to do with his past relationships could be affecting his ability to be vocal and physical with me, but every time he has this big epiphany moment, it's always short-lived and nothing ever comes from it. I'm so afraid that this is something I won't be able to excuse for much longer. As I can tell, whenever I bring this up to him, it's falling on deaf ears, and I feel as though he just makes excuses to try and avoid the conversation. I have loved him for so long, but I'm afraid I'm falling out of love with him because I am finding it hard to feel loved by him. Any advice you can give me on this would be greatly appreciated, as I am at my wit's end here almost. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I also wanted to ask what the commenter above asked you, and your reply is a bit sad. I myself have a very, very hard time expressing my feelings verbally, and at this point it's become an inside joke with my partner. but I express my love in many other ways. I cuddle a lot. I surprise her with small, unexpected gifts. Whenever she comes home from a work trip, she arrives to a clean house, a full fridge, and fresh bed linen. I sometimes force myself to be a bit more romantic, even if it feels a little cheesy to me. Even if it's nonverbal, like I'll pick wild flowers for her in spring, grow her favorite vegetables in my garden, cook for her, and prepare her a hot bath after she has had a hard day at work. There are so many things to make someone feel cared for and loved. I would feel uncomfortable if my partner forced me to become more verbal, because that's just not me. I wouldn't feel like myself, and it wouldn't be meaningful anyway, on request. But you for sure deserve to feel loved and special in some way. Comment 2. This is really validating everything I am feeling, so thank you for saying that. When I think about it, every time I mention marriage or whether he would propose to me soon, he always shuts it down, saying either, "I don't want to talk about that," or, "We can look into all of that in a couple of years." He is a really great guy, and he is my best friend, but part of me thinks I'm just settling here too, because I'm comfortable, and the thought of starting over with someone new scares me. What's hard, too, is this is a common conversation that comes up a lot. I communicate that I need more. He either shuts down the conversation or makes excuses as to why he is the way he is and isn't able to change. I end up saying sorry for bringing it up, and we don't speak about it again for a month or two. You're right also when you say there are no major red flags, which does make it harder. Now, for the update. My boyfriend's flirty friend might be why he's been distant. We have a date to talk about it. A few days after my last post, my boyfriend and I went to my parents' house for a family dinner. My younger sister had just graduated from college, and everyone was celebrating her achievement. It was a super lively atmosphere, with laughter and stories shared around the table. I was happy, but my boyfriend was acting different. He seemed so distant, just focusing on his phone instead of joining in any conversation. I thought maybe he was just tired, but now I think it was more than that. During dinner, my dad raised a toast to my sister and jokingly asked if anyone else had big news to share. My brother Jake took that chance to announce that he and his wife, Rachel, were expecting another child. Everyone was so happy and congratulated them, but I couldn't help but notice how my boyfriend was acting. After dinner, my mom suggested a game of charades, but my boyfriend said no, saying he was tired. I played along with my family, but kept glancing over at him, who was still on his phone. Later, my boyfriend and I stepped outside for some fresh air. I was trying to chill a bit and enjoy the evening, but then his phone buzzed. I noticed he glanced at it quickly, and his expression changed. I asked if everything was okay, and he just brushed it off, saying it was just work. After the game, my sister asked if my boyfriend and I had any plans for the future, specifically about marriage. I could tell my boyfriend was uncomfortable. He avoided eye contact and mumbled something about not being ready. Later that night, I found my boyfriend in the kitchen, staring blankly at his phone. I tried to talk to him, but he seemed preoccupied and uninterested. The next morning, I found a message on his phone while it was charging. It was from someone named Alex and contained a flirty comment about meeting up for drinks. I confronted him about the message, and he got defensive, claiming it was just a friend. He insisted he was loyal, but I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal. Later that week, my parents hosted a holiday barbecue, inviting both families. My boyfriend agreed to come but seemed distant and distracted all day. During the event, I overheard him talking quietly with Alex outside, and they were laughing in a way that felt intimate. I approached them, and my boyfriend abruptly ended the conversation, looking flustered. I decided we should have a serious talk later that evening, after the guests left. He opened up about feeling overwhelmed with work and personal issues, but didn't mention Alex again. The next day, I decided to set clearer boundaries regarding our relationship. I suggested couples activities to reconnect, like cooking together or going for walks. During a walk in the park, my boyfriend got another text and excused himself to take the call. I felt uneasy and decided to wait for him to finish before confronting him again. I planned to have a serious conversation about our future. I wanted clarity on our relationship. I decided to invite him to a local art fair the following weekend, hoping it might help reconnect us. Mini update. The art fair was a disaster. My boyfriend spent the entire time on his phone, ignoring me. When I asked if he still wanted to talk about our future, he said he didn't see a future with me. I felt crushed and couldn't understand why he was acting this way. Am I the idiot for calling out my sister's freeloading while I juggle everything alone? I'm a 32-year-old female and my sister is 38. We have a very close relationship. Since I was a little kid, we have shared many good memories. She taught me about the best music bands, movies, and series since I was around 4 years old, and that's why we share a lot of our taste. She was and is very kind towards me. She has never bullied or abused me in any way. She studied medicine, and I was so happy because that's what I wanted to do later. She was 16 years old when she chose that path, and I was having that kind of dream at 10 years old. When I was around 8, I really liked to play tennis, but my sister couldn't continue going. So my parents took me out of tennis. I was upset, but I accepted it. They said it was because school and homework were too much for my sister, and we can't take you to tennis if she doesn't come. So I let it go, but I was afraid of my future in school, as it was going to be so hard you don't even have time to do sports. Also, when she started medical school, they bought her a lot of books and equipment, and she got a scholarship, and they would take her by car to college and pick her up. When I started high school, I was like, it wasn't as hard as I expected, and I was a very good student and very independent. I went by bus everywhere, and I had great friends that I keep in touch with today. Then I started medical school, and it was very hard, but I went through a 3-month depression that I handled alone, and then got on track. I got good grades and made friends, and I relied on public transportation a lot. I also did sports and prepared my own food. And I started to say things like, "Mom, you don't need to drive my sister around by car everywhere. I'm doing the same studies in the same town, and we live in the same house. She can go by bus like me." But she kept driving her. Then, when my sister was doing her specialization, it got worse because it was like the hardest part, and my parents would even do her laundry. At that time, I was busy with my own medical studies, but I would do my own laundry and cook for myself. Even if I didn't pay for it, I would organize myself to do it. All this time, my sister and I were on great terms and sharing time together, talking at night about music or parties. Then my sister left for Argentina, and she stopped working as a doctor, started working at a call center, made a lot of tattoos, became an astrologer, and I was like, do whatever makes you happy, but be careful because the economic situation in our country, Venezuela, is crazy, so just do what makes you happy, but be independent. My mom sent her money, not a lot in general terms, but a lot in Venezuela's context, like $4,000, and I started to get upset because I, as the younger child and still living with my mom, felt that was household money that we needed. Then I also left the country, and I started helping my mom with her medical conditions. She has a chronic disease, and the treatment is not available in Venezuela. I would send the money to my sister, and she would buy it and send it. No money was asked of my sister ever. And one year, my sister said, "I can't send the medicines. You need to stop bothering me about that errand. I have my life, my schedule's here, and can't do as you and Mom wish." I told her to please reconsider. I told her I could pay extra money to her for her trouble, and I would pay for the entirety of the treatment and the delivery. But she said no. I asked a friend who lived in Argentina, and we did the errand together. Later, my sister was having economic problems, and my mom sent her money. After that, she agreed to do the errand of buying the treatment for my mom that I paid for. I think she was softened by the fact that my mom sent more money. She had no more money to keep living in Argentina, so she went back to our country. My mom paid for the ticket, and now they have a lot of very real money issues. Even if she works, it is not enough money. So I send a bit of money, but I told my sister everything that I just wrote. I told her she had every facility and comfort, and I didn't. I told her it was unfair that I have to send money on my own, and especially that even if I sent the money, she didn't agree to do the errand for my mom's treatment. She told me I was so bitter and resentful. She stopped talking to me. My mom told me not to send anything, even if it means she gets sick or bedridden. They said I had no right to judge my sister or my mom, that I was carrying a bag of rocks and I was ready to throw them whenever they needed help. I feel so depressed. I haven't spoken to my sister in days because she wouldn't answer. I sent money to my mom because she needed it for shoes, and she didn't ask, but I want my mom to have shoes. I don't know what to do. I feel like I hurt my sister beyond repair, and I apologized deeply, but she didn't answer. I was doing sports, studying, working, and now I have problems getting out of bed or focusing. Any advice for this situation? To sum it up, I love my sister, but I fear she is enabled by my parents, and she wouldn't discuss that. What can I do? How can I feel less depressed about losing my best friend? Who is her? Length of relationship, 32 years. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Thanks for your answer. I'm forcing myself to keep working out and being good at my job, but it's getting harder because I feel so much guilt. I went to therapy some time ago, but the family issue didn't get explored a lot. The therapist said something along the lines of, "We would need the whole family coming to therapy to explore that. Otherwise, we're going to focus on you." Now for the update. I'm back with an update on my sibling situation. So it's been a week since I last posted. I was minding my own business, trying to deal with my own issues, when I got a text from my sister asking if we could meet up for coffee at this local cafe we used to go to after school. I was like, should I risk my mental health again? I debated whether to go meet her or not, but I figured it was worth a shot to clear things up. It was also a good excuse to get out of the house. So I grabbed my bag and headed to the cafe. It was kind of nostalgic, but I just couldn't shake off the bad vibes from the last time we met. My sister finally showed up late, of course, looking all flustered and distracted. The first thing she did was bring up our parents, saying they were pressuring her to find a job. I mean, she's been living off them since she came back. I pointed that out, but she just brushed it off like it was nothing. Then she dropped the news that she was planning to move out again soon. I was like, cool, I'm all for her independence, but isn't she running away from her responsibilities? The conversation took a turn when I asked about her commitment to her career. She acted like I was judging her choices and started getting all defensive. Things got really heated, and I felt like everyone in the cafe was staring at us. She ended up storming out, and I was just left there feeling frustrated and defeated. That evening, my mom called asking for an update on my sister. I explained what happened, and of course, she was all defensive about my sister again. It feels like I'm not even allowed to say a word against her. A few days later, I saw on social media that my sister had been out partying with a bunch of her old friends. You know, the ones who were a bad influence in high school. I didn't want to be a downer, but I couldn't help but feel worried. So, I decided to attend a family dinner at my parents' place that weekend. I thought maybe I could talk to my sister and see if she'd listen. During dinner, my dad made this offhand comment about my sister's carefree choices, and she just laughed it off. I was so irritated. Later, I confronted her about her friends and pointed out the risks of their lifestyle. She flipped the script and accused me of being controlling and judgmental. It escalated, and I ended up walking out of the house. The next day, my sister texted me again, asking to meet, this time at our old childhood park. I was like, sure, why not? At the park, she admitted that she missed our bond and wanted to reconnect. I suggested we discuss our differences calmly, but she still seemed distracted. Out of nowhere, she said she was thinking of moving to another city for a fresh start. I was surprised, but I just asked if it was truly what she wanted. She mentioned talking to an old friend from high school who lived there and could help her settle. I expressed my concern about her impulsiveness and lack of planning, but she accused me of always trying to hold her back. So, we parted ways again. A few days later, she called me, sounding upset. Her friend had backed out of helping her move, and she was feeling stranded. I offered to help her find a solution, and we agreed to work together on a plan. We met up to brainstorm ideas, and she mentioned wanting to explore other careers beyond medicine. I suggested looking into community colleges or training programs in our area, and she seemed interested. Honestly, it's been a crazy ride of emotions, and I'm just trying to figure out how to deal with all this without losing my mind. Edit. It's been a few months since my last update, and things have improved with my sister. We ended up enrolling in a community college program together, and she's been really enjoying it. She's also been more responsible with her finances and even looking for part-time work. Our bond is slowly getting back on track. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.